Okay, all right. Hello, hello. Happy Saturday. I hope you are doing well. My name is Krista Nicole. Sorry, I'm in Florida and it's very warm out here and very bright. But I wanted to jump on here real quickly because I felt horrible yesterday for not coming on and doing my live during my normal time on Friday. But I did have a very bad migraine, and if you've ever dealt with that, then you know how horrible they are. I have a little bit of a migraine hangover today, so I'm still not feeling 100%, but I wanted to come on here because I didn't want to disappoint you again today. And I apologize if my shirt is backwards. I was trying to flip my phone around, but that wasn't working too well. So if you saw my post yesterday, as I said today, I'm going to give you a training on the most destructive characteristic that we all have in communicating. And so I think it's going to be really helpful for you. I hope it will be at least. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So just a couple of quick questions. Have you ever noticed that when you're having a conversation, you quite often think that someone is saying one thing, or maybe you've been in an argument and someone is saying one thing and they actually meant another, that sort of thing? Well, that's because this most destructive characteristic we all do, and that is assuming. So I want you to take just a minute and think about that, okay? This was something that my mentor had trained on earlier this week. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I had to come on here and talk about it because that is something that I do all the time. And I think just in general, as a human being, everybody does. But if you have BPD especially, I am sure you do it all the time. I do it all the time. And since you don't really have that protective emotional skin that most people do, you probably not only do it all the time, but have noticed that you probably get into a lot of arguments. You probably often are hurt more than most people would be. And I want you to really think about that, because I had a teacher in high school that used to say, assuming makes an ass out of you and me, which is kind of funny, obviously, because if you break it down, it's exactly what it spells out. But it's true, because just humans in general, we have a natural tendency when we assume to go towards the negative and assume that whatever the intention was, it was a negative intention. And I want you to think about, how many times have you done this personally? I've done it more than I can count. Think about how many fights you may have gotten in because you assumed that the person on the receiving end meant something that they didn't. Think about the emotional roller coaster that it's caused you if you, again, assume that negative intent, and perhaps you've lost relationships. It's caused you to spiral. Maybe it's caused you to get into an argument, and most certainly caused needless pain, right? Because that's just kind of a natural tendency. So when he was training on this, I mean, I was just thinking about it myself, and even just in my own personal relationships with my husband or with my mom or some friends, just thinking about all those times where I was probably needlessly hurt because I assumed that my friend or my husband or whoever intended something that they didn't actually intend. And rather than approaching them about it, I either walked away hurt or sad or frustrated or whatever. And it probably wasn't even necessary. So, like I said, I am obviously guilty of it. You may be, I'm guessing you're probably guilty of it as well, because I think everybody in general is. Because again, you go towards the negative. You don't assume the positive intent. You assume the worst outcome rather than assuming the most positive outcome. So there are a couple of ways to be able to combat this. One of them, of course, is verifying So if you assume that something happened, if you can't stop yourself from assuming, then before you start to spiral, before you start to get upset, before you start to feel hurt, take a minute and verify it with the other person, and that just looks something like approaching them and saying, hey, in this situation, I felt like you were saying this or that. I felt like, maybe it's something like, I felt like you were really upset with me and that's why you were reacting this way. And just verify with them and see if that's actually the case, because it's probably not. So that's a big thing of what you can do to combat. Now, if you would like 3 other tips for helping to combat if you are assuming, or to kind of get you out of that rut of assuming so that you don't start to spiral, so that you don't cause needless fights, so that you don't lose any relationships, that you don't cause yourself unnecessary pain, then shoot me a private message and I'd be happy to get those tips over to you. I think it would just take a little while to go through, so I don't want to take up your time here. But anyway, I hope that was helpful. So I want you to think about it the next time something happens where you feel hurt or you feel rejected or you feel you start to feel angry about a situation that you've encountered, and stop and think whether or not you're assuming that intent. And if you are, then take a moment and at least verify with the other person, and reach out to me if you would like those 3 other tips on what you can do to help mitigate or not control the situation, because you can't really control it, but control your reactions to it. So hopefully that'll help save you a little bit of pain and a little bit of hurt in the long run. Okay, I hope that was helpful for you. Thank you so much for checking this out. I hope you've gotten some value. If you have, comment or share or like. And if you would like those 3 tips on other ways to help with the way you react to the situation, please shoot me a private message. Again, thank you so much for checking this out. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great rest of your Saturday. Have a great Sunday, and I will see you next time. Bye.